me today on the show is Lanre Arogundade, the publisher of the new book Fela's Yesterday's Message and Today's Reality. And according to him, he would be doing history a great injustice if he did not write this book about the great musical icon Fela Anikulapo-Kuti. Welcome to the show, sir. And I mean, even though you didn't give me the book,
thank you. And let me just say, it's not really a new book, a booklet.
Okay. Yeah.
The book is
but regardless, you should take time.
Yeah,
you took your time to actually write about the icon.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about Fela. I mean, he's been honored recently by the Grammys. Do you think it's something that was long overdue? And would you say the growth of Afrobeats globally was a reason why he was, should I say, finally given his flowers now?
Well, I think everything has its time, and it's good that he finally got the Grammy. But before the Grammy, I think Fela was internationally known. He's internationally known because Fela is one person that you can't really talk about in the past tense. He's ever, present all around, musically and politically. And I recall that in 2012 January, when we had this massive, protests against fuel price hike in Lagos, when millions came out. That was 2012. Fela's music was everywhere in Lagos, everywhere. And I think the rest of Nigeria, it was the music everybody was singing. So there was no way that it would not come to a point that it would be internationally, recognized as an artist. And that was why I deliberately, titled my book, Fela, Yesterday's Message as Today's Reality. And you yourself said a new book because you just feel it has just, happened. Okay, I also agree that Fela contributed a lot to the growth of Afrobeat, and definitely the fact that Afrobeat is everywhere in maybe different formats. Some call it now Afrobeats, and so on and so forth, definitely contributed because you have so many generations of younger artists, taking, their roots. And an interesting thing is that there's a way in which Afrobeat has actually kind of, dislodge what you could call, pop music, which is usually associated with the younger, generation. So to that extent, I think, yes, it's good that we can talk of this, Grammy.
Okay, so now all that Fela stood for, when he was alive is still something that is relevant and is still being talked about today. He was like a prophet. I mean, he saw the future in the past, and even to date, all he sang about...
He saw the past in the future.
Exactly, saw the past in the future. So like all he sang about, is still being experienced till date. Would you say that's the main reason for the longevity, that we've enjoyed, in his music? Because it's like when you sing about Fela, you should I sing any of his songs, you can still relate it to the current reality we face.
Well, yeah, I think I would say 80% that is the reason. And that's why even for the younger generation, and I don't agree for people who think that, the younger generation don't connect with Fela. You need to just come to Felabration. And I made a point in this book that thousands of youths just go there because the moment they listen to that music and they just kind of, connect. And so that's, in a sense, you could say that Fela is a prophet. And he himself kind of prophesied into this. He said his music is always waiting to catch the moment or to catch you. And I will give you an example. So there's this number that he sang, that was launched, called Country of Pain. He sang about that one. He started about Government of Crooks. And there was one where he sang about the fact that as at that time, you had a coup and they arrested Shagari. And they said, was it only President Shagari that they will arrest? And how about other presidents too? That is in Confusion, Breakbone. Yeah. Interestingly, by the time that song was being released, by the time the album was being launched at the African Shrine, incidentally, I was the master of ceremony then. And Fela just said, you see, when EI composed this song, military head of states were not calling themselves president. But Babangida had come and called himself president. So Fela just jokingly said, now so my music bill, if it be 10 years, we go just stay for one corner, I go just catch you, bam. And that's another thing about Fela, a lot of humor. And as I was coming, I just kept thinking that you could actually write 100 books on Fela. One, music. One is politics. his fearlessness, his confrontation,
Activism
and the rest of them. One, his sense of humor. He had an extreme sense of humor. As a journalist, if you went that time to interview Fela, it would disarm you before you ask the first question. Let me just give you this example. I was a young reporter with National Concord. Yeah. And on one occasion, I just felt, let me just go and have an interview with Fela. And to interview Fela at that time, you had to arrive his residence by around 10, 11, because he won't come out until about 1 a.m. And he knew I was working with National Concord. So the moment he came out, before I even asked the first question, he said, look. If you go to London, you see newspaper color, story color, picture color. And you say you come from, if you go to London and you mention core, before you say Concord, now to the take and clean Gotani, it was just kind of, that time we were doing black and white. There was no colored, newspaper.
So more like mocking our situation.
More or less like mocking, So even in his politics, you see a lot of humor. Like when Martin Luther King's grandson came to Nigeria and he visited, someone, I won't mention the name because and Fela said, me, where are they here? Where are they fight? Martin Luther King grandson, no come see me. He no come go see Becker where they do human rights. He can't go see policeman. That generation will know the person. So you could have a book on Fela's humor. You could have a book on Fela's respect for fellow human beings. And this may shock our listeners, women in particular. In those days, his shrine at Purple Street, Ikeja, used to be jam-packed. So for those who are maybe semi-inner caucus or journalists like us, we usually stand close to him by the stage. Anytime some girls come in, particularly women, and they do not have seats, Fela will vacate his seat for them until they're able to produce a chair for him. Or if it's young, children. That was another side of Fela that we really don't talk about. Or is it Fela the choreographer? Fela likes dancing, and that's why you see his Afrobeats and that of his children, Femi, Sheun, and Madi now, and so on, comes with a lot of, dance. The dancers themselves are interpreters of the music. And I tell you that you could actually debate who does the hardest work in any of their band. You want to think these dancers, how do they do it? Particularly when you listen to Femi's fast, tempo beat. But one of the things Fela used to do was to train the dancers because he himself, was a dancer. So we could just go on and on and on. And, you talk about somebody, who enjoys life. And then, of course, his unusual ways of life. Yeah. The fact that he doesn't keep money in any bank and so on. He gets money, we just put it in one wardrobe without any lock because he believes that the African spirits would protect the money.
African spirits.
Although on one occasion somebody went and grabbed the money he made and ran away from it.
African spirits will protect the money.
And Fela, in his humorous manner, when that guy stole that money, you know what he told people? He said, make you not worry that the thing that was paining him is that person will go and spend the money on women and he will wait and behold, about a month later, the guy came around. He had spent all the money going from one, hotel to the other.
Do you think from a crop of artists that we have currently that anybody can maybe not emulate, but try and should I say be like him? Maybe not totally have everything like Fela did, but because I asked that question because we've seen his children.
Yes.
Sheun Kuti is one person that tries, but it's like if not be Panadol, don't be like Panadol. Don't put it that way. You get. But do you think we can have somebody with that kind of caliber? That kind of respect Fela commanded, globally. Do you think we can have that kind of artist currently that can even go out there, talk about the issues, confront, societal issues, even the government, they go wrong, use music to, should I say, draw them to the issue? Can we have that kind of artist ever again in Nigeria?
Well, I wouldn't say we can't because life itself is evolves, and change is the only thing that does not change. So to that extent, we don't want to turn Fela into a deity, to a god that says, well, nobody like him can be like him. We really don't know tomorrow. But Fela operated in a different era. It was not a digital age. It was largely a period of, military rule. even though he
Which made it
witnessed,
harder.
which made it harder. A lot of
digital
courage.
footprints.
So I think you can actually give a lot to him, because even musically, when you look at that ensemble, we are talking of a band of almost sometimes 20 people. About 7 people on the saxophone, on the trumpet or the flute, about 5 percussionists, including the big bedu drum, and so on and so forth. The guitarists, I think we used to have about 2 to 3 guitarists, not to talk of the shekere player, and so on and so forth. And he was still able to produce a tight, compact music. Any one of them that you listen to. So we could just say that Fela was a genius. But that does not mean that we also do not have other artists who have used their music to raise public awareness about the ills in the society. The Idris Abdulkarims of this world, the other artists like his children, also in their own way. Every time, if you were a regular goer to the shrine, you listen to them. Femi does not just sing. He talks about the ills of the society, and their own songs too also reflect that. The same thing, Sheung. Perhaps it's Made that for now does not do more of talking about politics, but does a lot of stories. So what we can say is that the fact that we have all these offshoots really is satisfying. That Fela's life has not been in vain, and you even had the foreigners. Remember the group that came from America the other time, and more or less you even have all white groups now that can produce and perform some of Fela's number. I think that would be great. So it's a challenge, really, rather than saying is there anyone. I would just say that, look, for the younger generation of artists, this is a challenge for you, that you can use your music as a weapon of liberation, and that the reward would definitely, come. You couldn't say that Fela was rich in his lifetime, but you can also not say that his children now, are not rich in terms of the fact that they are benefiting, from that legacy. So, and Fela at that time was not really thinking about the money. It was just like, let me stand, for the people. So we can just say the challenge should be that strive, to be like him. You can be a Fela in another way, but no two people will be exactly alike, because like I told you, Fela has different characteristics. It wasn't just about music, it was about humor, it was about so many things. And I guess his own background made him quite unique. A lot of people will talk about Fela and talk about African Shrine. But Fela's music was not limited to the African Shrine. He was also a jazzist. He was a jazz player. And in those days, I remember very well, he used to come occasionally to this Awolowo Road. I think there used to be jazz 30-something, run by...
Jazz Home?
Jazz 38. Yeah,
Jazz 38,
it was Jazz 38, run by, Francis and Frances Kuboye. Frances Kuboye was Fela's cousin, who unfortunately died shortly after Fela died. But the husband was a jazz, he had a small jazz band. And so Fela would come to Ikoyi here at Jazz 38 to play with other jazz artists. He would, leave Afrobeat and deal with just, jazz alone. So I felt that kind of, made him. Okay. We didn't know, for example, that Fela could play on the drums. I think it was in that Confusion Breakbone that for the first time Fela, took the sticks and was on the drums.
He was a complete musician.
He was a complete musician. So that's why I'm saying that for the younger generation, even musically, you should strive to be a complete, because the production itself, it would endure, for a long time.
Right. So now your book, what was putting it together like? What do you call it? You didn't call it a full book.
Well, it's it's a book. It's a book because,
exactly.
A book is not judged by the pages, but the content really.
Exactly.
So I called it. Your question again. You said
what was putting together the experience?
It was tough,
I know
really.
you met Fela, but what information is in this book that people don't know about Fela that they should look forward to maybe
one information that is in this book by the time it gets online that they will find out was the fact that I knew Fela even before I met him physically, and that was because of the power of his music. What happened? We had an uncle who has an electronic store in Ijebu-Jesha in Osun State. Myself, my brother, my cousin, we'll go there. I'm talking of 1970s. We just go there, listen to all records. But that of Fela made a lot of difference to us. And we see him at the back of the album. We try to, act like him, even occasionally just in ordinary pants and then singing his song. And I remember the boys' quarters where we were staying.
Before you continue, can I ask you very...
But Fela never played on stage in ordinary pants, so that's part of the myth. But let me tell you this.
Ask you,
me and my brother...
Why was it like... I know maybe during his rehearsals, he wore pants. Why? Like, because... I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about Fela, especially for the younger
I think for him...
Was it more like trying to be comfortable, like I'm in my house?
Exactly, that is it.
But now,
it was in his perception. House. It was in his house.
Because now, okay, they are in some museums. You have representation of Fela, and when you talk about it,
but these days, you see guys, and it's not just ladies alone. Guys, a lot of what people wear. Sometimes you go to all these fitness center people jogging. What are they wearing? They're just in their boxers. He was only wearing it in his own.
Because I asked this question is because like a lot of times when I talk to younger, I'm young, but maybe not so young. Well, they feel like when I talk about Fela, I feel like the man that wears pants. I'm just like it's like the perception, the image.
But not everybody accepted Fela. There were those who were very critical of his way of life.
True.
And there were those who preferred to use that to discourage people. There were those who were also against his policies, against his messages. So the easiest thing for them to do is to pick that aspect of his life to undermine the message that he was passing. But the truth was that Fela only did that in his private house, maybe when he's doing his rehearsals with his woman. But when it comes to on stage, and he had one of the best outfits. Some of them at Kalakuta, museum. He was a fashionista. That's another thing I wanted to talk about. That you could also write a book on Fela as a fashionista. He had his style, his peculiar shoes, and the rest of them. But they would just say, "Oh, Fela is just like you just want to call a dog a bad name, in order to hang that particular dog." So don't.
Okay, so back to the book. What's there that people?
You find in the book that there were many of my generation like that came across Fela even when they had not met him. And the fact that Fela's message that I listened to as a young person, as a teenager, also contributed to my own eventual political ascension. I became a radical in the university. I became a student leader. And I was, at the time, the national president of National Association of Nigerian Students. What you would also find in this book are some other, side gists about how Fela, for example, never went on stage to play without adequate sound check. And that sound check was a reflection of Fela's discipline as a musician. You couldn't just rush him. And I cited an instance in this book where he went to play at Ife at the invitation of the Students' Union. And there was a disagreement along the line because of provision of vehicles and so on. And fortunately, I happened to be on campus. Having known him, we intervened, and invariably, he arrived at the amphitheater at the University of Ife, now Bafemi Awolowo University, at about 1 a.m. Students were already agitated. They were shouting. Immediately he arrived, they said, "Fela, just come and play, Joe." Normally, Fela's band would first play. That is the first round of sound check to see how the musical instruments are, the outputs, and the rest of them. But so for students, they wanted him to play, and Fela just told them that, "I beg, if you shout your shout, me, I go do my sound check." And because the band had not played, it took almost 1 hour because everything had to be right. He would ask every single musician to play the instrument, to do everything. He would listen. He would be sure that everything is okay, and then he would start playing. But by the time where the students were losing patience, or by the time Fela started playing, the whole place become, a dance arena. So you will find in this book how Fela was disciplined, how even when he arrived at the shrine, as he's alighting from the car, he's already picking one or two things that is not right. Because like I told you, the band will already be playing. The band led by Lekan Animation Babani at a period, they will already be playing.
Where is Lekan
And even when he
Animation
steps
currently?
into the shrine, everybody will be shouting. He had all kind of appellations. That is referring to the mom, Augustine, referring to his head, they believe he has what do you call it, the one at the back, Augustine. But everybody would just be calling him all kind of names, But Fela would just stand at a spot. He would do like this. He's telling you that something is wrong. So the moment he enters the shrine, no matter what Fela had been doing, no matter the music takes his entire being. Yeah. And in this book too, you will find some analysis of some of his songs. Some as far back as the 1970s, early 1970s, songs like, just like that.
Where can people get this book? Because we're
going to make, we have run out of hard copies now and so on. So we're doing some updates so that it can be available online through the usual channels, Amazon and the rest of them. And when it's available, we'll let people know where they can pick.
Okay, so you
copies.
Don't know a particular time that it will be available?
In the next few months, if not a few weeks.
Okay.
So we'll just watch out.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Lanre Arogundade. Thank you. So, I mean, we can talk about Fela. Like you said, there's a lot of sides to Fela.
Exactly.
Like you said, the fashion, the music, the activism, and the whole lot. I feel like he's one person people can learn from. And about the question I asked you, if someone can emulate what Fela stood for, it's going to be hard. I think right now, our current crop, and the thing is, I feel like right now the message would go faster because we have social media, we have digital print, digital media rather, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Thank you so much for your time.
We need to work hard, but we salute those who have, stood in that line.
Exactly.
You didn't know that because it's not easy, and that's why, like I said, you need to give credit to Femi Kuti, to Yeni Kuti, YK, for ensuring that
to other artists that
and then all other artists that come to the shrine and so on, we give credit to them. We give credit to Sheung. I mean, Fela had a band, Egypt 80 band. Sheung became the leader of the band at the age of 14.
All right.
Yeah, not even arrived when the father died.
All right,
and then we now have Made. So we thank all of them. But again,
Fela remains
Fela.